Told you there was a ring so powerful that it could command armies of Jinn, control the winds, and make animals speak. A ring that descended from paradise itself, bearing the greatest name of Allah engraved upon it. This isn't fantasy. This is the true story of Prophet Sulaiman's ring, authenticated in Islamic sources. Stay with me, because what you're about to discover will completely transform how you understand divine power. Before we begin, I need you to understand something crucial. The Quran is crystal clear. Prophet Sulaiman's power came only from Allah, not from magic. In Surah Al-Baqarah, verse 102, Allah explicitly states that Sulaiman never practiced sorcery. The ring was merely a tool, a symbol of Allah's grant of authority. Remember this as we journey through this according to authentic Islamic narrations compiled by scholars like Imam al-Tabari. This ring story begins not with Sulaiman, but with his father, Prophet Dawood. One day, the angel Jibril descended with a divine gift. It was crafted from brass and iron to metals with profound significance. The brass represented authority over the good jinn, while the iron symbolized control over the rebellious ones. But here's what made it truly extraordinary. Engraved upon this ring was the Ismi Azam, the greatest name of Allah. This is a name so powerful that only the angels knew it. A name that could open all doors and grant tremendous authority to its bearer by Allah's permission. The historical sources tell us that this very ring had originally been created in paradise itself. When Prophet Adam was sent to earth, this ring came with him as a divine blessing. It passed through generations of prophets, finally reaching Prophet Dawood. As Prophet Dawood grew older, Allah commanded him to gather his sons. Through a test of wisdom and character, Sulaiman was chosen as the worthy heir. When Jibril brought the ring to Dawood, a profound conversation took place. According to Al-Tabara's narrations, Jibril said, "O Dawood, as Allah has commanded, gather your children and ask each of them questions to determine who is worthy of this trust." The ring was then passed to young Sulaiman, but with it came immense responsibility. This wasn't just about power. It was about justice, wisdom, and serving Allah's will on earth. When Sulaiman placed that ring upon his finger for the first time, something miraculous happened. By Allah's permission, he immediately understood the language of birds, could communicate with ants, and sensed the presence of Jinn around him. The winds themselves awaited his command. But the greatest gift, the ability to distinguish truth from falsehood, to judge with divine wisdom, and to establish justice across all creation. Remember, I mentioned the ring was made of brass and iron. This wasn't random. According to Islamic historical accounts, each metal served a specific purpose. When Prophet Sulaiman needed to command the righteous jinn, those who submitted to Allah and worked willingly, he would use the brass seal. These jinn would respond immediately, eager to serve in building mosques, diving for pearls, and constructing magnificent palaces. But for the rebellious jinn, the ones who resisted, who tried to cause corruption, the iron seal came into play. With it, Sulaiman could bind them, imprison them, and force them to do hard labor as punishment for their disobedience. Think about this. Prophet Sulaiman didn't need to raise his voice. He didn't need threats or violence. One stamp of that ring, and armies of jinn would mobilize. One command, and the winds would carry his throne across vast distances in moments. But the true power wasn't in the metals. It was in what was engraved upon them, the Ismi Azam, the greatest name of Allah. Islamic scholars have debated for centuries about this name. Some say it's Al-Hayy Al-Qayyum, the ever-living, the sustainer. Others believe it's hidden within the 99 names we know. What's certain is this: it was a name that, when invoked with sincere faith and Allah's permission, could manifest extraordinary results. The ring served as a physical reminder of this name's power. Every time Sulaiman looked at it, he remembered that his authority was on loan from Allah. Every command he gave was an act of worship, not personal ambition. This is why Muslims must understand the ring didn't have independent power. It was like a key-sless without the door it's meant to open. And that door was Allah's will. Now, you might ask, is this story authentic? Let's look at the sources. The Quran mentions Sulaiman's extraordinary abilities in multiple verses. In Surah Saba, verses 12 to 13, Allah says, "And to Solomon we subjected the wind. Its morning stride was a month's journey, and its evening stride a month's journey. And we made a fountain of molten copper flow for him. And there were jinn that worked in front of him by the leave of his Lord." Notice, always the Quran attributes the power to Allah. The details about the ring come from early Islamic scholars, like Ibn Abbas, the companion of Prophet Muhammad himself, who learned directly from the Prophet. Al-Tabari, one of history's most respected Islamic historians, compiled these narrations with careful authentication. These aren't myths or legends. These are historically documented accounts passed down through rigorous chains of transmission. What happens when the most powerful object in creation falls into evil hands? Prophet Sulaiman was about to face the greatest test of his life. A test that would strip him of everything and teach humanity a lesson that echoes through time. Among the jinn under Sulaiman's command was one named Sak. He was cunning, ambitious, and deeply envious of the Prophet's authority. While other jinn accepted their role in Allah's plan, Saka seethed with resentment. He began observing Sulaiman's daily routines, looking for weakness, and he found it in the most human of moments, when Sulaiman removed his ring to perform ablution. According to Al-Tabari's detailed account, Sulaiman had a practice of removing the ring before ritual washing, as any jewelry should be removed for proper wudu. He would place it in a trusted location, complete his ablution, and return for it. Saka saw his opportunity. He waited, he planned, and then he struck. One day, when Sulaiman placed the ring down and turned away, Sak seized it. But he didn't just steal an object, he stole an identity. With the ring in his possession, Saka transformed himself to look exactly like Prophet Sulaiman. The disguise was so perfect that even the closest advisors couldn't tell the difference. He sat upon Sulaiman's throne, wore his clothes, and began issuing commands. Meanwhile, the real Sulaiman returned to find the ring gone. Without it, his ability to command the jinn vanished. Without it, people didn't recognize him. According to the narrations, when Sulaiman tried to enter his own throne room, the guards turned him away. "Who are you?" they demanded. "Sulaiman is already inside." Can you imagine the shock, the pain, the utter helplessness before 40 days? Prophet Sulaiman wandered as a common man. Some narrations say he worked as a fisherman by the sea, earning his bread through hard labor. The prophet, who once commanded kingdoms, now struggled for daily survival. But here's what's profound. Sulaiman never complained. He never cursed his situation. Instead, he turned to Allah in deeper worship. He understood this was a test, a reminder that all power belongs to Allah alone. During this time, Saka sat on the throne, but something was wrong. His judgments were corrupt. He contradicted the Torah's teachings. He showed favoritism and injustice. Sulaiman's chief minister, Asif bin Barkia, began to notice. This man knew the scriptures deeply and had worked with Sulaiman for years. The judgments being issued didn't match the wisdom he knew. Asif gathered the scholars and said, "Something is wrong. This is not the Sulaiman we know. We must investigate." 40 days of deception, 40 days of injustice. But truth has a way of surfacing, no matter how deep it's buried. And when it did, the consequences were swift. 21:30 to 23:30. Asif bin Barkia wasn't alone in his suspicions. The Torah scholars, the judges, and the righteous people of the kingdom all sensed something fundamentally wrong. They decided to test Sulaiman. They brought the Torah scrolls and began reading the laws and judgments of Allah, according to the authentic narrations. As they read, Saka began showing signs of distress. Why? Because jinn, especially evil ones, cannot bear the recitation of divine scripture. The words burned him spiritually. He tried to maintain composure, but his reactions were off. He would flinch, turn away, show irritation where the real Sulaiman would show reverence. The scholars looked at each other, their worst fears confirmed. This was not their prophet. They surrounded the throne and confronted the impostor. "Who are you really?" they demanded. "What have you done with Prophet Sulaiman?" Exposed and cornered, Sak panicked. He couldn't maintain the illusion anymore. In a moment of desperation, he grabbed the ring and fled. The scholars chased him, but Jinn can move in ways humans cannot. Saka ran to the sea, and in a moment that would seal his fate, he threw the ring into the ocean depths. His logic was simple. If he couldn't have the power, no one would. Let the ring be lost forever in the endless waters. But Saka forgot something crucial. Nothing is lost to Allah. Nothing is beyond his power to restore. Remember that fisherman working by the sea? That was Prophet Sulaiman himself, still in exile, still patient, still trusting in Allah's plan. One day, as he caught fish to sell in the market, he noticed something unusual in one fish's belly. When he cut it open, there glinting in the sunlight was his ring. Can you imagine that moment? The flood of emotions. Relief, gratitude, validation, power returning in an instant. Sulaiman placed the ring back on his finger. Immediately, his connection to the Jinn, the winds, and all creatures was restored. The veil that had hidden his identity lifted. He returned to his palace, not with anger or vengeance, but with renewed purpose. The guards who had turned him away now recognized him instantly. The people rejoiced. Justice had returned. But the story isn't over. What happened to Saka? How did Sulaiman ensure this could never happen again? When power is restored, what comes next? Revenge, forgiveness. Prophet Sulaiman's response teaches us about divine justice, fair and eternal, to 30 minutes and 30 seconds. The first command Sulaiman issued after regaining his throne was simple but absolute. Bring me Saka. Every jinn in his service mobilized. They searched the mountains, the deserts, the caves, and the seas. Saka had gone into deep hiding, terrified of the consequences he knew would come. But you cannot hide from divine decree. Eventually, the jinn found him, bound him with spiritual chains that he couldn't break, and dragged him before Prophet Sulaiman's throne. According to the historical accounts, Saka didn't try to defend himself. He knew what he'd done. He knew the punishment was just. To 33 minutes and 0 seconds, here's where we see Sulaiman's wisdom. He didn't execute Saka. He didn't torture him. Instead, he issued a punishment that was both merciful and severe. Sulaiman commanded the Jinn to bring a chest made of iron. They sealed Sakhr inside it. The seal meant that no Jinn, no human, no creature could open that chest without breaking the divine seal. It was spiritually locked by Allah's greatest name. Then Sulaiman commanded, "Cast it into the depths of the Sea of Galilee." The chest, with Sakhr imprisoned inside, was thrown into the deep waters, where it remains, according to Islamic tradition. Not destroyed, but contained. Not killed, but imprisoned until the day of judgment. Why this punishment? Because it served multiple purposes. It removed the threat permanently. It demonstrated the futility of rebelling against Allah's prophets. It showed Mirza Sakr's life was preserved. It served as an eternal warning to all Jinn about the consequences of betrayal. But why does this story matter to us today? Because we all face moments when power is taken from us, when we feel betrayed, stripped of what's rightfully ours. Sulaiman's response teaches us patience in adversity. He didn't despair during 40 days of exile. Trust in Allah's plan. He knew power comes from Allah alone. Justice without vengeance. He punished firmly, but fairly humility in restoration when power returned. He used it for good, not revenge. Every Muslim facing hardship should remember. If a prophet as mighty as Sulaiman could lose everything and regain it through patience, so can you. Now we need to address something controversial. Many people believe this ring had magical powers. Is that true? What does authentic Islam say? Because throughout history, people have twisted this story, invented myths, and used Sulaiman's name to justify magic and sorcery. The Quran addresses this directly in Surah Al-Baqarah. Verse 102, Allah says, "And they followed what the devils had recited during the reign of Sulaiman." It was not Sulaiman who disbelieved, but the devils disbelieved, teaching people magic. Notice what Allah is saying. Sulaiman did not practice magic. The association between Sulaiman and sorcery is a lie invented by devils and spread by those who reject truth. The ring was not a magical object. It was a divinely appointed symbol of authority. The power came from Allah's will, not from the ring itself. Think of it like a king's crown. The crown doesn't make someone king. It symbolizes the authority already granted. If a thief steals the crown, he doesn't become king. Similarly, when Sakhr stole the ring, he gained temporary deception, but not legitimate authority. Over centuries, Jewish mystical traditions and medieval Christian stories twisted this narrative. They claimed the ring could summon demons at will. It contained trapped spirits. It gave Sulaiman supernatural powers independent of God. These are fabrications that contradict Islamic teaching. In fact, the six-pointed star symbol often called the Star of David, is actually linked to these corrupted versions of Sulaiman's seal. Some Jewish traditions even claim this symbol has mystical powers. But authentic Islamic sources never attribute such claims. The symbol of Sulaiman's authority was not about geometry or magic, it was about the name of Allah engraved upon it. Selling Solomon's ring as jewelry, claiming it brings protection, wealth, or power. Some groups even claim to be searching for the original ring, believing it will grant them world domination. This is particularly common in certain secret societies and occult groups. As Muslims, we must firmly reject these ideas. Allah's power cannot be contained in an object. Blessings come from faith. If someone approaches you claiming to have authentic Quranic amulets or Solomon's seal for sale, run the other way. These are scams at best and spiritual poison at worst. Here's what authentic Islam teaches us about this ring. It existed and was given to Prophet Sulaiman by Allah. It symbolized divine authority, not magical power. Its effectiveness came from Allah's permission, not inherent magic. It's no longer accessible to humanity, so don't waste time searching for it. We've journeyed through an incredible story, but if it doesn't change how we live, what's the point? Let's bring this home with 5 life-changing lessons. Sulaiman was the most powerful human ruler in history. Yet, when that ring was taken, his power vanished instantly. Why? Because the power was never his, it was on loan from Allah. We chase wealth, status, degrees, and influence, thinking these make us powerful. But one illness, one economic crisis, one betrayal, and it all disappears. Real power is to walk a complete trust in Allah. That can never be taken from you. Sulaiman's 40 days of exile weren't punishment, they were purification. They reminded him and teach us, no matter how high you rise, remain humble. When hardship hits you, don't ask, why me? Ask, what is Allah teaching me? That shift in perspective transforms suffering into spiritual growth. Sulaiman could have given up. He could have fled to another land and lived anonymously. Instead, he stayed, worked humbly, and trusted Allah's timing. The ring returned exactly when Allah willed it to return. Not a moment earlier, not a moment later. Your breakthrough is coming. Your vindication is near. Not your anxiety. When Sulaiman regained power, he could have destroyed Sakra brutally. Instead, he imprisoned him justly. In our lives, when someone wrongs us and we gain the upper hand, what do? Islam teaches us to be just, even to those who wronged us. That's the character of prophets. The biggest lesson: evil doesn't always come wearing horns and carrying a pitchfork. Sakha looked exactly like Sulaiman. The deception was perfect on the surface. Today, false teachers, corrupt scholars, and spiritual scammers present themselves as guides to Allah. They quote Quran, wear Islamic clothing, and speak eloquently. How do you identify them? The scholars who exposed Sacre used the Torah divine revelation. We must use the Quran the same way. It's our criterion for truth. The secret power of Prophet Sulaiman's ring wasn't in its metal or engravings. It was in what it represented: complete submission to Allah's will and authority, granted by Him alone. You don't need a magical ring. You need faith, patience, good character, and trust in Allah. That's the real power that no jinn can steal, no enemy can take, and no hardship can destroy. Subscribe for more authentic Islamic content rooted in Quran and Sunnah. And remember, the greatest power in existence is already available to you, called dua, supplication to the Almighty. Assalamu, alaikum, wa rahmatullahi, wa barakatuh.